Welcome to Dungeoneering Done Dirt Cheap, where I, Everweird, am playing the Gunderholfen Mega Dungeon using the Beck Me D&D rules from the 1980s and 90s. When we last left our heroes. They had encountered Kegoths, which are these abominable cavemen who dwell in Gunderholfen, these sort of ape-like, humanoid, part animal, part monster, I guess. They had suspected a lot of them were in an area they hadn't explored here because they had listened at these doors and heard some sounds. In our last session, they had made their way around to this room, which was empty, but Kegoths immediately came in through these doors. When they heard more coming, they dashed down this hallway. A couple of Kegoths they heard start pursuing them. They heedlessly ran through a door into another room and then through another door and found a stairwell leading down to level 4 or the depths below, whatever it may be. And Talira, feeling like she had no other options, signaled to the party to follow her down to level 4. There is a moment of, just a brief moment, as they hear those footsteps of the Kegoth running down that passageway in pursuit of them. There's this moment where they feel this is the wrong decision. We're going to cut ourselves off from escape upwards. You know, they can't run to level 4, find things are dangerous, and then run back up if the Kegoths know exactly where they are. They feel this tear, this crossroads of a decision of like, we need to eliminate those Kegoths because they know where we're going and they'll know how to trap us in there or hunt us down, and we won't be able to escape up through level 3. Nonetheless, they fear these footsteps that they hear behind them, and they kind of look ahead like we have to descend these stairs. And it's at that moment that they hear this shriek, like a Kegoth crying out, and then they hear these two bodies hit the ground. Heavy bodies, the bodies of Kegoths hitting the ground right there. And everything is silent. The footsteps have gone away. They have started descending these stairs, but they are not so far that they can't hear these noises of the bodies hitting the ground, and then the silence that comes after it. And they hear these like light footsteps padding down that hallway. Does Talira return and open that door? No. Talira fears whatever this is and stands her ground, motions to everyone to stay where they are, and this door, they hear it open up. They see a flicker of light, like there's a torch that has entered this room, and so they can see this light coming under the door. They're in this passageway with the stairwell, and there's a door between them and this other room that someone has just entered. They see that light pitch under the doorway. Will they open that door? Yes. Talira signals to everyone to grab their weapons. They all pull out their swords, daggers, bows and arrows, mace, everything that they can to prepare to overwhelm whatever is coming towards them. But they've only heard one set of footsteps. Talira holds that +1 dagger, that magic dagger, in her hand as she takes a hold of that door to pull it open and reveal whatever's in this door. Looks to her companions. They all cinch up on their bows and their swords. They are ready to fight. She opens this door, and standing before them is Faqual, the magic user who had once accompanied them on their adventures and whom they left for dead. Or not so much left for dead, but Faqual had seemed to perish from wounds that he received from the Vilstrak back on level 2. They took him to the Temple of Cathalea, and a day later, the clerics of the temple reported to them that the body had disappeared. Faqual stands before them now, covered in these dark robes, not looking like himself so much, except in the facial features, where he still looks weathered and a bit gaunt, but these robes that he's wearing are definitely new and much darker with a hood. He slowly raises that head up so that Talira can see his face in the torchlight, and she gasps, "Faqual." That's all she can say, and Faqual stares at her for a very long time, holding no weapons, nothing but the torch. and simply says yes. She is standing at the top of the stairs at that door. I think some of the party are down on the stairs. Certainly, like Zenith is down a couple of stairs with her bow so that she's shooting upwards. But they all see and they all let out their own gasp as Faqual reveals himself in the torchlight. And Talira sees that behind him are floating these two ghostly shadows. And then beyond that, still through that open door, she sees the bodies of the Keegoth lying there. She can't say anything but, thank you. You saved our lives. And Faqual, not in a villainous way, but in a just direct and factual way, says, I don't think you did me the same service. There's just an air of tension. They're all very tense. Virago, I don't believe Virago was present when Faqual fell. I don't believe they had returned from their pilgrimage back to their home. So Faqual is seeing Virago in this new light. Even if he had seen them before he fell, there's just this new understanding of Virago coming into their power, the power of this mystic this path that they've chosen. And Faqual sort of regards them, nods his head as he slowly scans the faces that are in this flickering torchlight, doesn't recognize Lorkay, the elf who is now with them, but seems to nod, understand his replacement wears a bit more armor than he did. Then he just turns and says, come, and beckons with his hand, and he starts walking back down that hallway. These shadows that have been floating behind him, these sort of ghosts, they turn and float before him down that hallway. So there is a long moment where they don't know whether to trust him or not, so they don't put their weapons away. But Talira nods to Virago. Virago understands, and they start to take their steps forward, following slowly, letting Faqual lead them by 30 feet or more. Just at the edge of the torchlight, they are behind him. As they get to the top of the hallway where those double doors lead to that room that they were afraid to enter, Faqual pauses at those doors and tells them, don't worry. Faqual turns to them and says, don't worry, I've neutralized the threat here. And he opens the doors. They find a 60-foot by 40-foot hall here. It is lit by 2 torches that are on the southern wall, where there are double doors. In this room, they see the bodies of 3 more Keegoth lying on the floor. Faqual beckons them through, and they sort of hastily move across and open these other double doors. The party is kind of quickly trying to put together where they are, but they have been down this passageway before. They walk through it, and they return to this room where they had found a dead ogre and the ladder that they descended originally to get to this level. Their only complication is that they have Frank with them, who is their clay golem, who carries treasure for them and things like that. Faqual gestures to the ladder. He knows they've come this way before and asks if this is suitable, and they explain it's difficult for Frank to climb this way. And he says, follow me then. These beasts won't bother you. And leads them south, sure enough, all the way down here and across to those stairs where they then can ascend to level 2. They're still in awe and confusion of what happened to Faqual, but he definitely seems more interested in getting them out of here safely. At least that's what they're understanding this to be. So as they ascend those stairs and they cross back through the room with the Vilstrock, they then take the lead, I believe, and escort Faqual across there into the cavern with the healing crystals. And I'm going to check to see if we're down on HP or anything. A couple of the fighters are down a bit on HP, so the healing crystal room is a great place for us to pause and ask Faqual what happened, what is going on. We're going to pause for an hour, so Grebe will go up to 10, Zenith to 12, Balad to 11, and Virago will return to full health at 7. So as we pause in the cavern with the healing crystals, everyone has a chance to take in this visage of Faqual and see how dark he seems. Like there's just a shadow that's sort of crept over his face. As they walk into the room with the healing crystals, which has this sort of the pulsating purple glow from the crystals, those ghostly shadows that had been accompanying him dissipate. They're sort of like clouds that disperse all of a sudden. And when that happens, I think everyone kind of settles down a little bit. It had seemed like death itself was walking with Faqual, and that didn't make anyone comfortable. They sit in this healing crystal room. Talira then is able to speak and say, Faqual, we thought you were dead. We thought we had done everything we could for you. And Faqual takes a few moments and absorbs that news and just leaves them in this uncomfortable silence without a reply, before saying, I suppose if the roles had been reversed, I might have thought you were dead as well, but I was not. When I was in that place that you left me, a darkness visited me there. It felt like a large black bird, a raven, a crow. It sat on my chest, and I woke up, and I felt I had a new path, a new direction for myself. It doesn't feel like life did, but I'm not dead, nor am I the undead. He's almost stuttering with the words. I am a living person with a new understanding of death. Faqual is still chaotic. I have not changed any of his stats. I have rolled up new hit points as he is now level 2. And I'll pause for a moment and give you a little behind the scenes story of what happened. As you probably know from watching other recent videos, I had to go back and calculate around the episode where Faqual fell. The party had returned to town believing Faqual to be dead. At some point in there, I was doing some leveling up and realized I had not rolled a new hit die for Blaine when he had leveled up. It was at that moment I realized I had never rolled a second hit die for Faqual when he leveled up. When Faqual fell, I was playing him as if he only had 2 hit points on level 1. But I had never rolled that again. He had taken, I think it was something simple, like 3 damage, 4 damage maybe. When I rolled those new hit points, he ended up with 6. And I realized I've terribly miscalculated this, and I've taken us down a narrative path where I needed kind of an escape from it. So within those, wherever those episodes fell, that was when I realized my mistake and thought, okay, Faqual will come back. And so I had him just disappear from the temple. And it didn't seem right to fit with the story to have him come back as a magic user and I guess just sort of acknowledge my mistake. I thought this is an opportunity to change and grow something in the story. So I really love these black pudding zines. I think they capture this kind of weird gonzo feeling of old school D&D play and sort of a sword and sorcery vibe that I really like. And within one, this is number 3, there is the class of the Ravenheart. You're a wizard of the night. So what has happened to Faqual is that he fell into a death-like slumber when this raven landed on his chest and he reawakened with his hit points and his new powers. This is now his class. His class is the Ravenheart. So he will level up as the Ravenheart does, keep their spell slots and armor. I mean, everything is, I'm not retconning a magic user or trying to homebrew something between this homebrew and the class in Beckme. Faqual is full on a Ravenheart. And he has this power to summon shadows. He can summon a shadow to do his bidding. It will remain for 1 turn every level. And every 3rd level, you get an extra shadow. I'm just now realizing my mistake there. I said he had 2 shadows. He only had the 1. He had 1 shadow that would remain for 1 turn for 2 turns as he is level 2. So within that 2 hours, that's when that shadow dissipated. There's also a thing that I realized within Gunderholfen, where this all started to make sense. It's in the back, in the bestiary here, when I was trying to solve this problem of what to do with Faqual, whether to just write him out of the story or bring him back, I was looking at the description of the Keygoths around the same time that's written out in Gunderholfen. Here's the description. They're an ancient race of degenerate humanoids resembling something like a cross between a white, shaggy-haired ape and a feline. They are large humanoids with pupilless white eyes and large cat-like fangs. They are often the pawns of evil powers, as they are easily awed by displays of dark magic and great strength. And it was when I kind of put those 2 things together that I realized there was this opportunity to make a little bit more out of the story. So Faqual returns as a Ravenheart, and that dark power that he's able to demonstrate awes the Keygoths and gives him the opportunity to use his magic and his shadow to slay the Keygoths and rescue his former companions. So now back to the story. As they sit in that crystal room, Faqual tells them pieces of this, that he returned and felt this sort of dark power over him or within him. think the only change I'm going to make now that I'm playing this out is that Fiqual will no longer be chaotic, but instead neutral. I think this encounter with death and this real or not raven that kind of resuscitated him, brought him back to life, has changed his outlook and his alignment, and he no longer feels that kinship with the chaotic that he once did. So as they recharge in the crystal room, Talira asks Fiqual about how he found them. How did you manage to arrive just as we needed you? Fiqual says, when I awoke, I searched through the city for you. It seemed natural that you might have returned to Gunderholfen. So I came out here, I explored around, I eventually found the same paths to level 3 that you had found. And it was just fortuitous. I started seeing evidence of your passage through level 3 with the were-rats as well as the giant rats, and eventually I spoke with a creeper who told me that they had seen you passing through. I was piecing it together. I'd already had my own run-ins with the Keygoth. Fiqual has learned this name that they are known by, I guess through research when he's returned to Longfelt, and said it was evident to me when I ran into them that they were in such awe of any kind of magic that I was able to easily get them under my sway and eliminate them if I found them to be a threat. And it just so happened that when they took off running, I knew they must have sensed some other threat within this level of Gunderholfen, and I quickly saw you being chased by them. It seems that Fiqual is even more reserved than he might have been before. At one point, there's kind of a long silence, and Virago asks, how have you left things with Balfour? Have you seen him since you reanimated? And Fiqual says, no, I have not. There was something very clear when I awoke that there was a magic beyond what Balfour had been teaching me. And I chose to respect this new magic that had come into my presence rather than pursue that chaotic and ultimately very selfish path that Balfour is on. This seems to put everybody at ease, and after that hour that they've spent in the room with the healing crystals, Fiqual allows them to take the lead and sort of surround him, as he has these new powers, but he is still a level 2 Ravenheart. So they take the lead, surrounding him and protecting him, and they take him out the way they know, through the room with the mushrooms, the middle path, the pond where the toads used to live, the crevice, the mouth that eats their money, the room full of bones, and past the wind trap, racing past the Sturges to go up the stairs to level 1. In level 1, they make time as fast as they can from the spiral staircase out through that entrance that used to be the Hobgoblin entrance, and I'm going to roll an encounter. They don't have one as they head out, so they are outside Gunderholfen and discussing their next move. They think it wise to go to Longfelt. They don't really know why, though. They're stuck in this conundrum, this sort of moment of decision making. They don't necessarily need supplies, but Gunderholfen is kind of the safe return for them. What they really need to do is consider how they will explore the 4th level. Although the Keygoths have been eliminated now, they could press on with Fiqual if Fiqual is willing to join them. They could press on to level 4, but there was just something about meeting him again and wanting to suss out whether he was on their side or seeking vengeance or something, that Fiqual also seemed to want them to get out of the dungeon, perhaps just to assess the whole situation. And so I think that's what's going on. As they are outside Gunderholfen, they ask Fiqual if he wants to rejoin them, and he says, yes, I do. I find in myself like a new desire to seek magic out, but not for the reasons that I used to want that. I'm curious about this magic that I've found in creatures in nature. Certainly the birds that awakened me, I'm not sure if they were real or if they were just common birds or magical ones. But I've heard of other such locations that might be full of this kind of natural witchcraft, and I'm curious to explore that, and I would join you on your adventures as much as it would allow me to do that. They know with the Keygoths having that threat eliminated by Fiqual, they could safely travel to level 4. They feel pretty secure with it. Fiqual says, in fact, one of these locations of this kind of natural witchcraft I have been interested to explore. There's an artifact that I see in my dreams that appears in this location, and I know it to be close to the Ganfal Swamp. It is the temple of a long dispersed cult, and if you were willing to join me, we might find plenty of treasure and adventure in this location, and it would give us some time to think about what we want out of Gunderholfen if we need to return to the city for more supplies, or if we feel equipped to descend to level 4 here. I think after some talk, that everyone is pretty much up to health, up to full health, and definitely sees this as a logical step. Let's go plunder an abandoned temple. They have some tangential interest in cults because of the cult leader that they fought faced and slew within Gunderholfen. In fact, Faqual was the one who cut his throat, and that was the first time they were really confronted with the wickedness and the chaotic nature of Faqual before he fell. So they're curious about these sorts of things, and it sounds like an adventure, and I think they also feel like they owe it to Faqual. Like, if this is where he wants to go, and he fell as part of their troop, and they feel like they kind of let him down by leaving him in the temple, but what else were they to do? So yeah, they all start nodding, and they say this sounds like a great thing for us to do. Faqual tells them it is probably just a day's travel across the swamp. They're going to head up to the north a little bit, off this path in this direction. They had been exploring on this morning of the 8th of the month of Wolf. So it'll take them 2 watches. They're not going to go into this temple at night, or are they? Maybe they do. Danger's going to confront us no matter what when we enter this temple. Why not go at night when it's more atmospheric? Well, they'll sleep the night. They camp a good ways away, and they sleep. Honestly, some of them keeping watch over Faqual on their guard shifts, but they will all gain another hit point. Those who have lost them will gain a hit point overnight, and Ballad is now back up to full health. They feel a little bit better about entering this temple. I think they can see it somewhat in the distance as the sun sets. The temple just goes dark. There's no light emanating from it. They just see this structure outside of the swamp area, and it is just pitch black. They all kind of confront this idea that they're going to explore this place in the morning. Just where the Ganfal Swamp ends, and the terrain is still muddy and swamp-ish, but not a full-blown swamp, there is the entrance to this temple. They see the double doors that lead into what is clearly the entrance to this temple that is sort of within a rock. And as I tell all of my players, and as these adventurers have learned on their own, you always want to look for a second entrance, or perhaps even more entrances. So I think for starters, we're just going to do a search for doors, basically, as we spread out along this rock and just look for other ways in here. A 1 on any die will reveal to someone what may be a secret door. So only 1. I got a couple of cracked dice I can re-roll. So a couple of them notice that off to the west here, there are some bloody handprints around what looks like it's still part of the cliff facing, but they notice these bloody handprints. That search for secret doors is what I'll use as sort of a investigation check. Will any of them realize what they need to do? Let's check that. So really the only ones, and this is set up by design, the only ones that have wisdom or intelligence scores are the Dungeoneering party and Faqual. Is it wisdom or intelligence? I think it's going to be wisdom. So Faqual initially examines these bloody handprints and does not understand what they are for. Talira joins him, also does not understand. Virago does not. This is a roll under their ability. Lorque, however, does get a great idea. Let's see if Blaine does. Blaine as well. So Blaine and Lorque, as they examine this area, think maybe the bloody handprint is the key. And they have a 4 in 6 chance of finding the secret door if they slice their palm. Blaine has the most hit points and says, let me be the one to do this. He feels a little bit tougher than Lorque, and also feels like sort of a mentor to Lorque. They've been developing sort of a partnership here. Lorkay takes out a dagger. Blaine is a cleric and doesn't carry edged weapons. And Lorkay slices Blaine's palm. Blaine starts pressing his palm where these other bloody prints are, and sure enough, finds this secret door. Say they spent an hour searching this already. They spend another hour searching off to the east for any kind of secret door, but of course they won't find one. They then need to decide whether they go through the main entrance, which they can see, or this secret door. I think they decide to take the secret door in. I could make it a 50-50, but I don't respect that. I think if they went through the trouble of slicing a palm, they're going to go through that way. So that's what they do. They take up their positions and they enter this secret door. As I mentioned, around this cliff or this rock edge, there are these bloody handprints seemingly reaching out, trying to find this secret way into the temple, or the tomb, that is. And they walk in, torch lit, of course. And I believe with a party this large, they're just going to go in with 2 torches anytime they need that. And what they find is a passage that leads back just about 20 feet before it takes a turn to the left. So their torchlight can reach to the back of that, and they creep up, they inspect around there, and they see that this passageway to the west now extends another 20 feet or so before it turns north again. So they do the same thing. They stand on guard, walk one at a time, and face this north passage. This time, just at the end of their torchlight, it looks like the hallway ends. So once they get there, they are going to inspect for secret doors again. Someone does find the secret door there. I think it was Grebe. So they take up positions as Grebe notifies them that there is a secret door there, and she opens it, and they walk in. The walls of this 15 by 15 foot room, just going to draw the other sides to it. The walls are lined with mirror-scaled serpents, dazzling reflections of light coming off of them. Non-chaotic characters, as they enter, are affected by confusion for 12 rounds. Okay, I have no chaotic characters right now. So let me look up the spell Confusion and see what that's going to do to everybody. It's a 4th level magical spell in BX. Victims with 2+1 hit dice or with less than 2+1 hit dice are not allowed a saving throw. So that's going to be Fequal and Lorkay. So they are automatically confused. Those with 2+1 or more make a saving throw versus spells every round of the spell's duration if they remain in the area or they are confused. Not sure how to play that with the instructions in the adventure, because it says they are affected for 12 rounds. Roll of 2 through 5 indicates fleeing. I don't understand the 2 through 5. Maybe I'll look this up in Old School Essentials instead, to see if Confusion's worded a little bit differently. Okay, so the save allows me to act with free will, but those with less than 2 HD, or 2 HD or less, and then I roll on this following table. Maybe I missed that in the Rule Cyclopedia. At any rate, let's start those saves. So Talira, save versus spells 15, makes it. Virago, 16, misses. Lorkay automatically fails. Blaine makes it. Dungeoneering Company, Grebe misses. Zenith misses. Ballad misses. So Dungeoneering Company confused. Virago and Lorkay confused, as is Fequal. So Talira and Blaine are the only 2 that save against this. Oh boy. So there's a chance they attack each other. 9. They attack their own group. So as they go in and these mirrors on the scales of these serpents on the wall start reflecting all this light and their torch light and everything, the whole party except for Talira and Blaine get confused and they start attacking each other for 12 rounds, not turns. Talira and Blaine are going to look over and let's just say, okay, Talira and Blaine are the good guys, so 4 through 6, they get the initiative. They sort of look around, see the madness in everyone's eyes, and they see that there are 2 doors, one to the north and one to the east. Odds north, evens east, north. They quickly run to this door and push it open, and they're going to start trying to drag their party through there. As they open this door, though, it's a very large chamber, sort of L-shaped. There are 4 zombie snake priestesses sprawled on heaps of molted giant snake skins, and they are awakened by noise. So in here, there are these 4 huge heaping piles of molted snake skins. On top of each one is a zombie snake priestess, and pretty soon, within the end of this round, the clattering of swords and things like that is going to wake them. So opening that door, Talira sees this scene, closes it, and gestures to Blaine that they have to run to the east. And at that point, it's going to be everybody else's turn, and they are going to attack. Virago attacks Talira with their fists. 13 will not hit Talira's AC. Lorkay attacks Blaine. 7 definitely won't hit Blaine. Grebe attacks Zenith. 13 won't hit. Zenith draws a Morning Star and attacks Ballad. Will hit for, oh man, 6 points of damage. So Ballad quickly gets thumped, and Ballad will attack Grebe. A natural 20, great. With that two-handed sword, 8 points of damage, almost takes out Grebe. This is terrible. Blaine and Talira see the desperation that they must act with. They also have this choice of, like, do they push out through this secret passage? I think that's what they're going to do. So Talira grabs Virago, and they're just going to bang through that door they just came through if they get initiative. Okay, 4 through 6, they don't. All right, the attackers get the initiative. Virago comes after Talira. Probably going to hit, yep, for 4 points of damage. Lorkay on Blaine. Going to miss. All right, Grebe on Zenith. Misses. Zenith on Ballad. Misses. Ballad on Grebe. Misses, thankfully, because that would have really done some damage. So they're just clattering around. These snake priestesses are definitely waking up. Talira grabs Virago and pushes them through that door to get them out of the area. If I read that spell correctly, once they're out of the area, the confusion spell no longer affects them. Blaine likewise will grab Lorkay and push him out. So now the 4 members of the party are out here and no longer affected by confusion. Will Talira and Blaine have the opportunity to run back in there? No. So the Dungeoneering Company continues attacking each other. This is terrible. Grebe on Zenith. Misses. Zenith on Ballad. Misses. Ballad on Grebe. Hits and takes Grebe down. So Grebe falls. Talira and Virago run back in, see Grebe on the ground. They both run to Grebe and pull her out. Sorry, Talira and Blaine do that. Blaine is not going to have a chance to cast a spell after that. Basically, his action is dragging Grebe out of there. So we do have some health potions. Okay, I was about to roll a death save for Grebe, but Virago and Lorkay out here are safe. So Virago quickly grabs a health potion and pours it down Grebe, restoring 6 HP to Grebe. So Grebe is out of it for the next turn, but recovering in there as the effects of this health potion start to wear on. Lorkay's not going to run in there by himself, especially because he didn't save, so Zenith swings at Ballad. Or wait, do I roll? No, this is top of initiative. Here comes initiative again. 1. They get to go first. Zenith on Ballad. Misses. Ballad on Zenith. Hits. Man, Ballad, why can't you hit like this when you're fighting monsters? And at this moment, Talira and Blaine are able to run in, grab both of them, and push them through the doors so that they are no longer affected by that spell. Everyone's here in the hallway where they were. Presumably those snake zombie priestesses are waking up in there. The party is going to take a minute to regroup, reset, and discuss whether it's worth going to the main doors or maybe making a run for it across here or something. I'm not sure they want to risk that. So as the party regroups within that inner hallway that they found through the secret door, they decide maybe this was just trapped so that people don't enter in this way. That does mean something valuable is there. Talyra was able to say something was slithering around, waking up in that room when I threw the door open. They're all fairly dazed after that confusion spell and wondering how to do it. And they think, obviously, there's something valuable here. I don't think we should risk it again with that room. That entire room felt like a trap. So let's go to those front doors and just be really cautious and aware that whatever's in there may know that someone is trying to enter. So they exit and creep over. It is early morning. They creep to these other doors, and they're going to listen at those doors. So I've got my 4 main party members, which includes Faqual now. So 5. Wow, no one hears anything. So there's definitely like gusts of wind and things like that are sort of distracting them. They don't hear anything, so they just take up their offensive positions. Let me check on my health potions 1 second. Yeah, so we used 1 to bring Grebe back up, and I think Grebe is going to ask for another. Well, no. She's at 6 points. Balad's at 6 points. So they just bear it, and we rest for the rest of that hour, and then we're going to head back in, taking up our offensive and defensive positions, I guess, and opening these doors. What we first see are piles of forest debris blown inside. As we look around, there's some bright lizards that sort of scatter as we move through. This is a very large hall. It extends about 15 feet before opening up into this huge space. They see the space expands greatly to the east, like their torchlight kind of fails them, but to the north they can see that there are double doors facing the doors that they just entered. Sort of the edge of their torchlight there. I'm doing a 5-foot scale. I don't have a grid mapped in, but about that. So yeah, they probably have to walk in a few feet, but as they look through the debris that's blowing around, they are bound to see those double doors. They look like they're made of sandstone, and they're gates. There are carvings on those of cultists drinking some sort of liquid, so participating in some kind of ritual. There are also faded murals in this room depicting a giant mummified serpent that seems to have been interred by cultists in a tomb of gold and jewels. Plus this gold leaf script that Faqual is very interested in. As he reads it, he believes that what he can make out is that it says, "Here rests Aum-Pharath, exalted avatar of the almighty Kahash." If he knows what that means, he doesn't let on. He just sort of reads it like he's learning this for the first time, but some of the party can't help but think that he knows something about this place that he hasn't told them yet. They have a few ways to go. Knowing that they entered to the west, they're curious about moving in this direction where this hallway is just open into a larger room. So I think that's where they're going to go. So they creep down there, they're going to hide, they're going to listen around the corner to see if they hear anything. Yes, a couple of them are pretty sure that if there's any noise to be heard, they would hear it. It doesn't look like there's anything in there. So as they walk in, they see faded murals on these walls of snake women placing gold coins in copper bowls. There's also a crushed skeleton here by this door to the north. Consulting their map, they're wondering if this door opens into that room that they were in before, where the confusion spell hit them. They see that this door to the north, where the skeleton lies, the door itself has a bronze cover or coating. It's described as bronze clad, and it is engraved with writhing serpents and the phrase "path of constriction." When Faqual reads that out loud, Talyra, Virago, and certainly Lorkay, I think, yeah, everyone actually shudders and says we don't want to pursue the path of constriction. There is a trap here, and I'm wondering if Faqual gets close enough to trigger it. And it would definitely, I'm almost sure that it would kill him if it goes off. Is that a 50% chance that he moves in that direction? I want to use the dice of fate wherever I can. If there's a majority negative roll, then I think I'm going to give him one more shot to scan around for a trap, which would probably just be like the 1 in 6. I don't know. Maybe this isn't a dice of fate. I don't need a squishy answer here. I need a hard answer. Yes or no? Does he approach that door any closer to read that? No. He's read it. He sees path of constriction. He sees a crushed skeleton. He wonders if there is a trap right there. So calls Talyra over, who will use her find traps ability. Virago also has that. Nope. Talyra does not find anything, and as Virago scans, they do not find anything either. But there's definitely a trap there, and there's just a wariness of certainly having gone into this trapped room, seeing this door marked as path of constriction. They hold off, at least for the moment. There is a door here, also to the east. Believing this to be the confusion room, they don't want to go through that door, so they're going to listen at the door to the east. Chalira, at least, is sure that if there's anything there, she has heard it. There's probably some creaking sounds coming from the room that's on the other side of this. Nothing that sounds like an animal, so I think they're going to try that door, and I'm going to have to sketch out this room. It's a pretty intricate layout for this map. And I guess I don't mean that that room is intricate, but the way a lot of these rooms are close together is intricate. So as they open this door, they see, I think their torchlight's going to make it. Their torchlight sort of falls on this right here, and there's a black marble altar. I'm going to mark off some time on the dungeon turns. They've spent a turn exploring this room for sure. Actually, probably 2. I'm going to roll for a wandering monster. And actually, it's a 1 in 6 per turn in this dungeon. So on those 2 turns, granted, I've forgotten to roll it quite a bit, but on those 2 turns, nothing appears. They see this black marble altar inlaid with malachite runes. When Faqual approaches enough to read, he's unable to understand these runes. But there are these sort of statues of guards. That's what those circles indicate. They are bound to these stakes. These guards are. Path Guardian monster. Guardian zombies created from the decapitated corpses of people who trespassed on lands claimed by an evil cult. Long bronze barbs inserted into the hands act as wicked claws, bound to the stake at which they were sacrificed. So that is why they are staked into the ground here. They break their bonds and attack once we enter. Faded murals on the walls around here depict cultists slashing their forearms, spraying blood into copper bowls. I don't think there's any point of rolling surprise because we've walked into this room and we've seen these 8 things. So I'm just going to roll for initiative. We get it. As these things break their bonds, we see to the north. I'm wondering if these are also gates. I'm just drawing it off the map, but I think that was probably meant to be the sandstone gates and these were just doors. If so, that's just a misprint in the adventure, I believe, because I'm fairly certain I'm reading this correctly. There's nothing in area 6 indicating what is to the north. So our choices are to run out these doors, or run to this door to the east, or fight these things. There's 8 of them. There's 8 of us. We don't really like those odds, and we shouldn't. Path Guardians are basically an equal fight for 2nd or 3rd level PC, but we're not all 3rd level yet. I don't think we have a good option here except to run for it. And I think we run for these doors because those are the ones we trust. So we run through those doors. And there's nothing blocking or sticking about those doors, so we make it through there. These zombie sort of guardians coming alive in this room, breaking free of their bonds. We're going to hustle down here to the east to see what we find. What we see is another door to the north right here, and we sort of jog ahead to see what else is there. And there's just a pathway to the north that seems, at least where a torchlight falls, there seem to be little alcoves along this path right here. There's a moldy smell around there. I think we are going to go there because it's kind of dark and we're thinking like maybe we can hide from anything that chases us and find another exit out of here. So we head north, creeping along in single file. Every 10 feet or so there's an alcove. See if I can clean up this map later. There's a slimy black purple fungus that's covering everything around this corner. Our torches are burning, so it's very dark. Let's see, we've been in here for 3 hours. We're probably running low on torches, actually. 3, we are running low on torches. We've got lanterns and such, but I like keeping the torches up. Do we clear any of these walls of their fungus? No. So we're just sort of creeping along because we're worried about anything chasing us out of that room. The ceiling above is cracked, and we see these sort of webs of fungus creeping in that looks almost like the forest is sort of growing into this room from these cracks in the ceiling. The sarcophagi that are in each alcove are covered in fungus. It's almost a crust on them, and the sarcophagi are upright. There's one in each niche. Oh boy, do we start cracking open sarcophagi. I think the company definitely sees this as a place that is probably rich with treasure, but the overwhelming sentiment is let's get safe and then we can come back here. So we're going to check out this door that's up here to the west. The east wall has 4 alcoves on it, and the west wall has 3 that is interrupted by a door. So we listen at that door. No one hears anything. In the center of this room, as we open it, is a steaming basin. Just a basin full of liquid that's steaming. It is bordered by a black stone serpent. As we wander in, we see that there's another bronze-clad door to the north. And Faqual will do the same thing. He'll keep a safe distance, but see if there's anything written on it. And sure enough, it is engraved with writhing serpents and the words Path of Venom. There are stone cobra heads on either side of that door in that little passageway. Faqual does not want to get any closer to that, but we spend a turn or more, let's see, probably 2, searching this area to see if there is anything that we can notice in this room. No random happenings. We're stuck with that door to the north. Door to the south, we're pretty sure it's going to exit into that main hallway. We now sort of consulting our map, taking maybe another 10 minutes to catch up on what we've seen. And I'll do another random encounter. So I'm going to have to get another die. Okay, we do have an encounter. As we spend some time in here, we just hear this sinister hissing sound. Almost a reminder that our time is fleeting in this place. We look a little bit accusatorily at Faqual, at like, what is this thing you're searching for here? And for the first time today, he's almost animated. He's been so laid back, and he gets suddenly animated and says, like, I'll know it when I see it. There's some anger or something else driving him. But it does sound, we believe him, that he doesn't actually know what he's searching for. We decide, as we consult our maps, there's 3 doors that we've seen, sort of these sandstone gates and these 2 bronze-clad doors. These say a path of something, a path of constriction, a path of venom. Neither of those sounds like something we want to pursue. Or we're wondering, is our safest bet to fight off those zombies? And no way. Faqual also says, I didn't like the looks of that smashed skeleton in the other room. Let's take our chances with the venom. A couple of us stand back and take a 10-foot pole and sort of push on that door to see if anything happens. Nothing happens when we push on the door. Do we think to push on the floor? We don't push on the floor, but I think Faqual's just too, well, maybe Faqual is driven by this obsession over this item that's in here. So Faqual's going to roll wisdom to see. And Faqual does pass his wisdom. So just thinking better of it, Faqual decides, I'm not going to step up to that door. And maybe that's the moment that the trap is triggered. A poison spray emits from the mouths of those snakes that are carved into the wall. Sorry, not a poison, but an acid spray. So Faqual pushes down on the floor, triggers this trap that sprays this acid, then thinks, I think we're okay. I've set off the trap. Faqual is going to pass through that room, and the spray goes off again. Faqual takes 5 points of damage. He has 6 hit points. There's no... Yeah, it's acid, so there's no save versus poison or anything like that. Faqual gets through, I guess, gets hit by that as he goes through those doors, and it's down to 1 hit point. Talira borrows a 10-foot pole and presses that plate again, and it does not go off. So Talira thinks, well, Faqual got hit. It's safe now. Talira walks through. She makes it through. Virago walks through. They make it through. Lorque. The spray goes off again. Lorque takes 10 points of damage and will drop from that. Blaine shrieks in pain. Blaine has this very fatherly feeling towards Lorque and immediately reaches down and casts Cure Light Wounds on Lorque, restoring 4 hit points. Lorque only has 4 hit points, so back to full health, but taking a minute to recover. This does not seem worth it, but Talira and Faqual are on the other side of this room. I should see what they see. They see shimmering pools with silvery snakes swimming in them. I love how every time you see a pool in D&D, there's an instruction in the dungeon that tells you what to do if the characters drink from it. And I don't think once have I ever had a character who wants to drink from a pool that they find in a dungeon. It just seems so unnecessarily dangerous. Nothing else seems to be in that room with Faqual and Talira. Lorque has dropped and come back up. Blaine is now out 1 spell slot and is on the other side of that door. Talira and Faqual are holding this door open. Faqual is gesturing them in, and Blaine is just shaking his head like it's not worth it. We hold that door open, and I think at this point, this is where we just decide to leap. You know, it didn't go off on Talira. We thought it was safe, and then it knocks out Lorque. I guess Virago got across as well. So there's 3 people on the north side. Lorque and Blaine can probably discern where that pressure plate is that's triggering this. They're going to burn another turn as they figure all this out, and there's no encounter. But after that, we are able to jump over the pressure plate into that room where we all see the shimmering pools with the illusory. Well, sorry, they haven't figured out that they're illusory yet. This room is also strangely L-shaped. There are those 3 pools, and we see a door to the east about midway up this wall. The wall's about 30 feet long. Blaine will get close to the pool and perhaps dip the 10-foot pole in to see if those snakes attack or anything, and that's when the illusion is broken and he realizes that there are no snakes in those pools. Would Blaine drink from a pool? Really? Okay. I don't know. Blaine feels pretty healthy. I don't think he wants to do this. So we are instead going to listen at that door to the east. Nobody hears anything again. I think just sort of the rustling, the sounds of wind sort of blowing through this tomb. We don't hear anything. We open it up and there is a somewhat very complex room. There are 8 fire pits. We probably only see 4 of them on this side. They're about 2 feet deep each, and there are sort of magical flames flickering blue and green reaching up out of those fire pits. There are bronze reliefs on all the walls depicting great serpents consuming screaming cultists. And there is a huge statue in the center of this room. It is inert, and it is facing the north, so it is facing up this way. There are 3 copper bowls at the base of this statue. We are terrified. These are the fire pits with the magical flames, and that big star is the statue. 3 bowls lie in front of the statue. They're copper bowls. We've seen copper bowls depicted all around here. There's the blood-filling one that we saw in this room, the cultists slashing their arms and filling it with blood. We've sliced blood before to get in that secret door. Wondering if we put this together. There are 3 different things that have to be placed in the bowls, and I don't think we've been in enough of the rooms to have put those clues together. We've only ever seen the blood. I don't even know if all the clues are listed in the adventure. I think we would think it's only blood. That might be the only clue we've seen. Nope, we saw faded murals of snake women placing gold coins in copper bowls. We did not clear the walls in here, which is where the 3rd clue would have been, so we don't know what to do. What we see to the north is that this looks like ahead of us like the actual tomb room. There's a smoky glass coffin in there. There's a giant coiled mummified snake that is visible inside that. There are little niches, little what I would call alcoves, but niches around all of these walls. There are green soapstone urns in them. I think we can see them along along the west and east walls. We wouldn't see the ones to the south because we're just peeking in. We're making a formulation here. We're wondering what goes in those bowls. We're wondering if it's worth looking for treasure here. We're wondering what other rooms we have not explored to the west. We want to get into those urns that are in the niches in the walls, but we probably don't want to disturb that tomb where it is a glass coffin with a giant snake in it. This is an interesting dungeon in that you got to go for it to see what you find. And that's not the kind of play that I've been involved in with this party. Faqual is the one who wants this. So Faqual cuts his hand and bleeds into one of those bowls. And then, does he actually have any gold? I don't think I rolled up gold for him. Oh, he would have what he had before. I mean, he has the party's gold. So, yeah, he grabs a few gold and he drops it into one of the other bowls. And then he's saying, we missed something. Where did we miss something? In the room to the west. So let's say 1, 2. I do think we searched through there pretty thoroughly. He's thinking it was in this room or in that hallway with the alcoves. His money's on the alcoves. I'll say, there's a 1 in 6 chance that he goes to the room to the west. Otherwise, he's headed back to the alcoves. He's headed back to the alcoves. He says, we missed something in there. So we retreat through here to the room with the pools, and we'll spend 2 turns searching that entire room, and I will roll for random encounters. We don't have one. I'd say we've spent another room in the place with the giant statue. Yes, there is an encounter there. So as we pass back through, 3 zombie snake guards on patrol wander into this room. As we are like leaving that and going in here, I'll say they come from the south into the room with the pools. Just as we're sort of taking our time to inspect those pools, these 3 zombie snake guards come in. We get the initiative. At this point, we don't feel like there's any way to evade them other than just leaving the entire tomb. Oh my gosh, they have so many hit points. But okay, we go after them. Just we've sort of made up our mind. Talira fires an arrow, hits one for 6 points of damage using one of those magic arrows that she has. There are 3 of them. They each have 21. They each have 21 hit points. Virago goes after another with their hands. And 14 will hit for 4 points of damage. Lorcase swings his sword. Wow, we're doing great. 8 points of damage on another. Blaine with his warhammer. First miss. Okay, then Grebe hits for 3 points of damage on that first one. Zenith with the arrow. Yeah, sorry. That's a miss. Nonetheless, Ballad with the two-handed sword misses terribly. So it is the zombie snake guard's turn. They are holding bronze swords, and the first one comes after Talira. Will not hit. The next one comes after Virago. Will hit. Will hit. Does 4 points of damage with that, and then tries to bite. And hits with the bite too. So with the bite, I have to save versus poison. I do not. I almost did, but I do not save. So Virago is going to lose 1 damage per turn for 12 turns, which is going to knock them out for sure. So it doesn't really matter about the rest of the damage. Virago goes down and is losing health, and we've got to figure that out. That was only the second one. The third one goes after Lorcase and misses. I'm treating it like they have to hit with the sword attack in order to try the bite attack rather than having them take 2 attacks. I mean, that's not the way it's written, but it just thematically makes more sense to me. I'm going to roll initiative. We get to go first again. But seeing Virago collapse, knowing that we're low on health potions and that Blaine already cast Cure Light Wounds, I think we're going to get out of here. And we're just going to tell Faqual, forget your treasure. We're getting out of here. We're in this room with the pools. I think it's a little bit better than 50-50. That Blaine, having broken the illusion of the snake swimming in the pools, might try to help Virago with that water. So I'm going to say on a 1 through 4, he tries. So Blaine, thinking quickly, grabs Virago and scoops up some water from one of those pools and throws it into Virago's mouth. Virago heals all their hit points. Will continue to lose 1 per turn because of the poison, but heals all their hit points right now, is back up to full health, but becomes chaotic because of that. Virago just feels this sort of surge of anger at the world as they regain consciousness, and Blaine, after doing that, wants to drag them out of the room. With our turn, because Blaine has done that, Talira, Lorcase, and the Dungeoneering Company are going to start to retreat, so sort of forming a little phalanx around Virago and just escorting them out. But Faqual is wondering if he can do anything. Faqual hesitates at that door, is the last to exit, but sort of scanning through his abilities, thinks there's nothing these new dark arts that I've learned can do to help me here. He retreats into that room with the pool. Faqual has 1 hit point, so he's feeling a little worried too. We're going to move through that door to the south, I guess quickly listening. And several of us are sure that we hear anything to be heard on the other side. Is there an encounter waiting for us? No, there isn't. So we get into that main hall and are able to run down to those front doors and let ourselves out into the daylight, where it's just after noon. Yeah, just about 12:30. I think we just breathe a sigh of relief, drag Virago into the edge of the swamp lands where Blaine will nurse them back to health. Every 10 seconds or so, they're going to lose a hit point, and Blaine is just letting them sort of sip from a health potion to restore that lost hit point. But we're down to one health potion. We're down to just 10 torches left. Feeling pretty defeated by this dungeon, and I don't know if we'll take another run at it after we rest. I know it was leveled for level 3 to 5, but it was definitely pretty punishing. So what this is the Tomb of Aum-Pharath from Carcass Crawler Issue 2. So it's written by Gavin Norman, the creator of Old School Essentials, and Carcass Crawler is the official Old School Essentials zine. I always thought this was like a cool little dungeon, and I keep this zine in my DM kit so that it's kind of one of my backup dungeons. If my players go in a route that wasn't anticipated, this is a dungeon I can just literally pull out of the bag and run for them. That was pretty brutal. And as we're out there, Fequalis is kind of seething, like wants to have found this treasure that allegedly lurks in this tomb and feels denied. Maybe his old life is coming back up and feeling like they did leave him for dead. Maybe they aren't his friends. They have retreated again. But he does have this neutrality, this new alignment. He is sitting in some conflict right now, and I am going to have to see if Virago is permanently chaotic. I mean, it says becomes chaotic. That is at odds with their mystic path. The mystics are generally lawful, I think possibly even proscribed to be lawful. So this is a possible quest that opens up where Virago may have to go back and study to see why they're not integrating the lessons of their mysticism correctly, because this chaotic alignment feels at odds with their mysticism. That's where I'll end the session today. That was the Tomb of Aum-Pharath. We didn't get much experience at all, so I'm going to have to give them some half credit for escaping a few things, and I'm going to look up some XP for where they were in the last episode. I feel kind of stifled as well, so I feel like I'm in the same position that Fequal is, but that is the sensible dungeoneer's advice, is to retreat from the dungeon that you can't handle. So we are outside, sitting in the Gonfall Swamp in midday, just wondering about our choices in life. And Fequal is wondering if he is going to continue adventuring with this party at all.